guys, Hudson here. Wanted to go ahead and make a little tutorial for you so you can hopefully understand how to walk through our work in GeoGebra. So if you are on our Schoology page, our discussion post is right here, and you will need to comment back to the discussion so you can look down through this, or I do have paper copies of this material to help you through it, but I have a step-by-step instructions here. So the first thing we would want to do is head over to the GeoGebra site. So if you're in the discussion board, that's real easy. I can just copy paste this. So I can Control C, we'll copy it, can open a new tab, and I can Control V, drop it in, and head over to GeoGebra. Notice that I've got different areas here. I want to go to Start GeoGebra, and it will actually ask you once you go to Start GeoGebra, probably if you want to create your own account. I've indicated here in our instructions, you want to create an account with your Google account that you already have, so you should be signed into a Chromebook. It should know who you are. So hopefully once we get in here or up here in the personal settings menu, you can tell it that you want to sign in. But when we go into here, we want to click on geometry because our work with 2- and 3-dimensional shapes is all geometry. Now notice down at the bottom, it will pop up with little help things. It asked me if I wanted to watch a tutorial, but of course you're watching my tutorial right now. But if you ever want to watch any of their materials, GeoGebra has some really good stuff posted. First thing you want to do is save your workspace. You always need to save your files. So if you've not created an account, you're going to need to, but notice I have my account right here. So I'm going to come to save. I indicated in our instructions that we are going to save with first initial dot last name and then some title that has the date involved in it. So notice here before we move on, I made a couple notes. At any point, I can use the back arrow to undo mistakes, and the back arrow is right up here at the top. So if I accidentally click the wrong thing, or if I go back too far, I can click the forward arrow. I can search for things. Right here in our menu, I'm going to save this. So I'm going to save my new one this morning as M. Hudson. We'll say tutorial 2/25/16. And of course, I am recording this video in real time. I'm not going to have any pauses, so you'll have to bear with me when real life happens and maybe mistakes happen. So if we come back to our instructions, the next thing we want to do is click on the 3 lines, look at that, save your files. Hopefully you've done that. Make sure that you've done this. I'm going to say it again. You need to save your workspace. If you don't save your workspace and then you come to me all upset, I'm just going to say, sorry, I told you to save. Check out the menus at the top. So the next thing is that these menus, once I click into one of them, I have all of the menus can drop down as I move left to right. So then I can go down the menu and choose on what I actually want. The symbols up at the top of the menu will change depending on what I've been using. Notice how this right now says reflect about a line, but when I hit reflect about a point, the symbol has now changed up here because that's the last tool that I was using. So GeoGebra kind of assumes that if I was using a tool, I'll probably want to use it again, so they keep it there handy so that you can see it easier than defaulting back to that original one. And you've also got some more menu settings over here. You can play through these. This will let me have an XY axis. This will let me have a grid. So different options like that, but we're not going to use any of those today. So just make sure that you've looked through these so you understand where things are. We're going to use them a lot. I'm going to stop toggling back and forth to here because you should have the instructions. So I'm just going to stay now on my GeoGebra pane. So please try to work along with me or pause the video and take it back if you need. So the first, like option number 7 or just number 7 on our paper here tells me to click on the points menu, click on point, and then I'm going to add a point anywhere in here. Now I like to start kind of near the bottom because as I do things, it's either going to work out to the right or up above. And I want to name this point, and it already actually has a name. I just want to show that name. So if I right click on it, which on the Chromebook I believe is a shift click, I want to just tell it show label. So it's going to pop up an A, and at any given point, if I want to move something, I have to come back up here, click on the cursor to hit move, and then I can even move like the name of the point. Now I can't go too far away from the point because of course it's attached to that point, but I'm going to move it right down here off to the bottom left for the moment. The number 8 was to add the point. Number 9, we named the point. Now number 10, we have to we want to click on the segment menu and say, or the line menu really, and tell I want to make a segment. Now notice down at the bottom, it's going to tell you when I hover over segment, it says select 2 points. So it tells me what I want to do. But since I only have 1 point there, I'm actually going to do a segment with a given length. Notice it says select point and enter segment length. So I'm going to click on that, click on segment A, and I'm going to tell it that I want this segment to be 7 long. 7's a nice prime number. It's kind of fun to work with. We're going to do a lot with the math behind the shapes that we're building here. So we also want to use my cursor, right click on the new point, show that label. I want to now determine the length of this. I already know that it's 7, but I want to see that as I work. So I come up here to the menu that I kind of call like the sizes menu, and I hit distance or length. So this is well actually I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, but in I'll go back. In number 11, it asks you to scroll up or down. If I scroll up or down in this pane, it zooms in or zooms out. But also, I can come over here to the menus and notice wherever it went, right here, I can zoom in or out. So in my far right menu, I can also show or hide objects. I can show or hide labels. So that kind of works also as my right-click menu. So if I want to show something, I could show or hide and then click on it. So if you don't know how to right click, you can use that menu as well, or zoom in, zoom out from there. But what I want to do right now is determine the distance here. So my distance, click on distance or length. I accidentally hid point B. So I got to go back and show point B. There we go. So now I do distance from A to B. This is the problem with recording in real time. I'm going to right click and make sure that I'm showing it. Show object is now highlighted, so that will fix what I've done. Or I could have gone back since I actually made a mistake. I could have gone back, but I'm going to come down here, delete this length. Now I'm going to try my length again, distance or length from A to B, and AB pops up. Now I'm going to move that down here. I'm going to get rid of A showing itself. There we go. So I've got my distance. Done with number 12. So number 13 says, by the way, if I did not, I'm going to show you this as well. If I did not click from A to B and I just click on my line, it will just pop up with a 7. But since that doesn't actually tell me what that is related to, it's not as safe to use. So we like to just go ahead and show that AB equals 7 as opposed to, accidentally undid the wrong thing. So I can undo here to get that back. And I'm going to undo to get rid of that 7. So now we want to go to angle with a given size, which is still in my size menu, but notice it's changed symbols. So now I go to angle with a given size, and notice at the bottom it says select leg, then vertex, and enter size. So I'm going to select my leg of AB, and it doesn't even make me choose the vertex because it assumes what I'm going to do. You cannot just start deleting. If you delete the degree symbol, it will pop back up, so don't worry. So it is going to go counterclockwise, which means it's going to come up here off of vertex A, and there's my point B that is 90 degrees away. Now the problem is it did not make a line to match. It just showed me where the point is. So now now we're on to in 15 we need to make this segment. So I again go to segment A to B. I again want to show the length of that segment. That's number 16, is to show the length of the segment. So I'm going to click A to B prime. Notice that this is called B prime because it's related to B. I made it based off B because this angle here is 90 degrees. So that's why this point is called B prime. So at this point, hopefully you have your 90 degree symbol down here, which I want. I can move my 90 degrees out of the box to right beside it. I can move my length AB right up here if I want. I can move this wherever I want. So that is our first kind of checkpoint. So if you do not have a shape that looks like this, go ahead, stick up a hand, and please ask me, assuming that you're working with me in class. So the next thing we're going to do is finish making this a triangle by making another segment, and I'm going to connect it from B prime to B. And always we want to show the lengths of our object, so I'm going to show the length of B prime to B. and that's 9.9. We're going to work with right triangles very soon, and we're going to talk about how we find that hypotenuse. We already talked about it briefly in class, but you'll notice the very cool relationship there going back to a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So now I've made a triangle, but GeoGebra doesn't recognize that this is a triangle until I tell it that it is a polygon. So I come up here to my polygon menu, I select polygon, and I'm going to connect point A to point B. Notice how it starts to turn kind of lavender. My wife told me I had to call it lavender. I click B prime, but my polygon's not done until I go back to my original point. So we always have to go back to the original point. So that is number 18. You should have gotten this polygon. It changes colors. Number 19, we go back to the size menu, go to area, and when I want the area of this triangle, I click anywhere inside of it, and I get the area. So that is using my formula of 1/2 of the base times the height. So half the base here would be 3.5 times the height of 7 gets you an area of 24.5. And I, again, can move these if I want to, anywhere inside my shape to make it look all nice and pretty however you want. So now I've got this circle, or I've got this triangle, but I'm gonna start to see some really cool relationships, how this triangle can work with other shapes. So at any point, if I want to move the whole triangle, I can just grab the triangle and move it. Also, since everything's based around point A is kind of like my master point. It controls everything right now. So I'm gonna come up here to my circles menu and select circle with a center through point. And notice at the bottom it says select center point, then point on the circle. So my center point is going to be A, and then my point outer on the circle is going to be B, so I have to click again on B to lock that in. Now notice that I can move this triangle within the circle. It stays with those 2 points on the edge though, because now A to B is a radius and A to B prime is a radius. We want to now reflect a point over to this part of the circle. And I want to make sure it lands on the circle, so it needs to be the same length as AB. I'm essentially going to make another radius. So we're in step 21. We're going to click on my points menu and click reflect about point. Notice at the bottom it says select object to reflect, then center point, and of course those kind of go away after a couple seconds, so if you need to see it again, just move in the menu so it pops up again. If you're confused, you can click on the question mark and it will pop up a help page. So if you ever don't know how to do something that it's asking you to do, you can go to the GeoGebra help page. So I'm going to reflect about a point. I click on B first, then I click on A. So reflect about a point, B, then A, and B prime 1 pops up because I already have a B prime. I already have that point based off point B. So this is now B prime 1 because it's also based off B. Again, if I want to move this to be more in my workspace, I can grab point A and shift it up, or I can zoom out if I need. So do whatever you need to so that you see the entire circle in your workspace. And we want to now connect this segment A to B prime 1. So I again go to my segment menu, click A to B prime 1. And I can even indicate that size if I want to, but I'm not going to worry about that size right now because I actually don't care about the whole length of this. I care about the midpoint of this. So in step 23, by the way, make sure you've saved your workspace often. So I'm going to come over here and save. If you have not saved, again, save. Now it's going to pop back up and ask me if I want to change the name. Now I could change this to like step 22 or step 23 if I want. Or I could just keep it going as one master file. So I'm going to actually go ahead and change this so that I have a new checkpoint. So I'm going to save that as step 23. So now I go back to my points menu. Not this points menu, notice, but actually this points menu over here. I go to my midpoint or center, and I want to find the midpoint of AB. That will pop up my point right there. And I want to find the midpoint of B prime 1 to A. And that'll pop up that midpoint there. We again want to show their names, so use the cursor. I'm going to shift this up. I'm going to click on this point and say show label. That's going to be point C. Show label here, that's going to be point D. At this point, if you're working off the paper document, you should be to step 24. You should also check in, make sure that you have everything like I do, the area of the triangle shown, the length of the hypotenuse shown, length of your AB, length of AB prime, and points C and D as the midpoints of these segments. Obviously, if I look at the whole diameter here, A is my midpoint because it's the center. You got to bear with me while I drink my coffee. So we now are going to make another triangle, but I'm going to use points C and D and another point down here. So you can probably guess if I want to get another point down here straight through this line, I'm again going to do reflect about point. I'm going to click point B prime, then click point A, and that should pop up my point. If it doesn't, just click it again, reflect about a point, B prime, then A, and it's still not working, so we just have to see what the issue is. Now it might actually be popping up points above. It is not. So this might just be having a morning moment. So this is the point that I want to reflect. This is the point that I want to reflect it from. Again, this is why recording in real time is slightly dangerous. There we go. So it might take a couple tries, but you have to make sure you select this point first and then point A. So if you have struggles in this, realize that's natural. It's a new program that you're working with. It took me a couple tries to do that. If ever I did anything accidentally, I can always hit the back arrow to undo what I've done. So now we're on to step 25. We want to connect points C, D, and B to be a polygon. So I can either start by making segments from C to B double prime and D to B double prime. That's what we call this point down here is B double prime. That's why it has the 2 tick marks up above it. So I could connect those, but what if I don't want to? What if I want to be kind of lazy? What if I just go to Polygon and try to say I want to make a polygon from C to D to B double prime back to C. I do not even have to have the segments there to begin with. I can just tell it to make my polygon. So now we're going to go ahead and use the area tool to find the area of this triangle, and we're going to see something really cool when we find this area. So we go to my sizes menu, go to area, select the area of this triangle. Notice it's exactly the same as my other triangle. This triangle is an isosceles triangle, whereas this triangle is a right triangle, but since they both have the same base size of 7, and actually we can show that they have the same height by step 28, tells you to use the segment tool and connect A to B double prime down here. And then I'm going to show the length of that. Now, if you remember from working with circles, if this comes from point A out to my edge of my circle, that's going to be another radius. So when I show that length, it shows me that it is also 7, just like this side of my right triangle and this side of my right triangle. And if I check the length, and you do not have to do this, so I'm actually going to do it, then undo it. But if I check the length of C to D, I see that it's also 7, because remember, it was half of this segment over here, and it was half of this segment over here. So that's how it ended up being 7, but I'm going to undo so that doesn't show and does not make my image any more confusing. I'm going to move these up here just to be kind of nice. And we should be all the way through prime to be 1. Believe that we're all the way through step 27. I may have misspoken about what step just a moment ago. I think I called something step 28 and it was not. But at this point we should be at step 27. Your workspace should look exactly like this. If it does not, please let me know or ask a neighbor. One of your neighbors might be doing well. So now step 28, we're actually there, is going to be to connect B prime to B prime 1. So again, I'm going to go use my segment tool, go B prime to B prime 1. I see that makes another triangle that's going to be exactly the same size as this right triangle. So no, we're not making that triangle a polygon. We're now going to get kind of crazy. So stick with me here. A parabola, if you look at, and I told you I wasn't going to toggle back and forth, but well, I'll do step 29 first. So step 29, I'm going to find the midpoint, and actually give me just a second. I have to go let Mrs. Pettigrew in the door. I'm in the middle of recording. You're good. All right, so once we find that midpoint, we can go ahead and show the label. So I'm again going to go to my cursor, right click, and I can show that label. That's going to be point E. So now, a tangent line. This is where we get kind of deeper into math. A tangent line is any line that is perpendicular to the radius at a certain point on the circle. So to make a tangent line, we're actually going to click on the circle and then the point, and it's going to pop up a line that is perfectly perpendicular to that radius. So we go to my circles menu. Do not go to the ellipse menu. Go to the circles menu. Actually, sorry, not the circles menu. Look for tangents. In these menus, you should see tangents pop up somewhere as you scroll through the menus. Some of you probably found it and were yelling at me to go back. Tangents is right here. It says select a point on, I said point or line, then circle. So I'm going to select my point, then my circle. My perpendicular line pops up there. I do that again, point, then circle, and it pops up again. Now notice that these lines intersect. I'm going to go ahead and put a point at that intersection. So instead of hitting point, I'm going to hit intersect so that I can put that point at the intersection of the two lines. Notice the lines get darker as I hover on them. I want both lines to be dark. Plot that point right there, and then show the label on the point. So that's going to be point F. I got to find what step we're actually on now. All right, we just finished step 31. So now we're going to take step 32, and we're going to connect these 4 points, A to B prime 1, to F to B prime, back to A to make a square. So A to B prime 1, to F to B prime, back to A. Now, if you were to make a conjecture or make a guess about the area that's going to be contained in this square, well, I see the right triangle that I already know the area of, and I actually see another right triangle that's exactly the same. So if I go to my size menu and go to area and tilt the area of the square, notice the area of that square is double the area of these triangles because it has double the space inside of it. Now we're getting to the end, so don't worry. We are on number 34. I now want to make one more segment to connect F with A. So now I've got an X through my square. Now the cool thing about when I run the diagonals of my square is these angles in the middle are actually all right angles. So this is not part of your process, but if you want to show the angle, we could just say, okay, angle, click on 3 of these points, but that's going to show the outer angle. So if I click up here then, that'll show me that that's 90 and so are all the other angles. So you don't have to do that, but if you want to, go ahead and do that. I now want to make another polygon inside of my square. I'm going to make this small triangle polygon. So I click on A, then B prime 1, then E, and back to A. Notice that got a little darker because it's on top of the other polygon so that I can see I'm looking at 2 different things there. We want to finally use the area tool one more time. So we go to my size menu, go to area, and do the area of this triangle. Notice that the edges get darker when I hover in here. So I'm going to find the area of that triangle, and notice that it is half the area of my other triangles because it is actually just half the size. So we're going to do a whole lot more with GeoGebra as we go through the year, but if you've done everything correctly, this is exactly what your image should look like. And the last thing we're going to do, because we've worked with circles, is find the area of this circle. Real easy. Go to your area tool and just click on the edge of the circle, and it will pop up, and that will be your pi times radius squared. So radius squared, if my radius is 7, that would be 49. So this is going to be 49 times pi. Notice if we approximate 49 to 50 and we approximate pi to 3, we're very, very close to 150. Now make sure that you save your final workspace. You gotta save this or else all the work that you've done will be for nothing. You also need to come back to our GeoGebra page and leave a comment below on my post to let me know what you thought was challenging about this, what you thought was really cool, whether you would like to do more of this, what you would like to know how to do about it in GeoGebra. And if you didn't make it all the way, let me know what stopped you from making it all the way through building this shape. If you have any other questions, comments, or concerns, please let me know. Otherwise, I will talk to you guys later.